This is Leid Stories. I'm your chief lead. And a couple of things. First of all, I'm doing much better, thank you. I had to take some time off to tend to health matters, and for no good reason. No good reason, except people being really stupid and reckless. So there's this person living in our midst, in our community here, and he thought it was a great idea to fix his motorbike and caused, I myself, I was shocked. I was more shocked at my reaction to it than what really happened is I could not breathe. I just could not breathe. The air won't go in, and whatever air went in could not come out. And I was losing concentration. I was losing, literally, consciousness. And I did have the presence of mind to call the local police. They in turn called the fire rescue. So it turned out to be a big, dramatic event, which I hate. I hate dramatic events. Okay. And I ended up in the hospital. That was Tuesday. I got out yesterday. So it was a bit intense because, as you know, my issue is my lungs. And this exhaust material and the cleaning material combined with each other and produced a huge toxic time bomb. And it went off on me. I was surprised I couldn't breathe. I just could not breathe at all. So anyway, I don't know whether he understood. He must have understood. And this was late at night. He should have understood that what he was playing with was kind of lethal. You don't mess around with these things, with people and children and neighbors. But anyway, so I ended up in the hospital. I got out, and I'm back to work. Why? Because I'm evil. And nothing could keep me down. That's why. All right. So what are we going to be talking? Excuse me. I'll be coughing a little bit all throughout. What are we going to be talking about today? I want to bring to your attention an article that ran in it was actually rerun in The Guardian, and it is a very sober article, or sobering article. Essentially, it says, just a handful, only about 10, keep that in mind, just only about 10 of U.S. billionaires have increased their wealth so much during the coronavirus pandemic that these 10, could have given $3,000 stimulus checks to every man, woman, and child in the country and still be richer than they were just 9 months ago. That's what the article in The Guardian said. I'm asking, that's a stunning thing to say. And, of course, it's quantified in The Guardian. Only 10 people, if they chose, because they are extremely wealthy Americans. If these 10 people chose to do this, it could be done. It absolutely could be done. Every man, woman, and child in need of assistance would have it, and these billionaires would still not have lost any appreciable amount of their riches. What do you think about that? What do you think about, what does that say about the society we're living in and the things that we're pretending not to notice or question? What does it say when you live in a society in which there are people so wealthy, and yet the country is experiencing all this turmoil, economic turmoil? But they're fine. They're doing just fine. Every person in the United States could actually have what they need to live. Everything they need could be provided for. And still, these billionaires would have been able to not only give them that help, but not lose a dime in terms of their wealth. So let's talk about what that means. Can an economy this lopsided be fixed? Is there something that could be done? Do you think, in fact, that something should be done, or are we just picking on rich people because we are not? Yeah, I mean, you have to figure that. That's a factor in how we react. Is it that we hate the rich so much that no matter what they do, they come in for a heavy percentage of criticism? But it also raises the other question. What does it say about a society where 10 people, that's all that's needed? Just 10 people can fix this whole thing right now. Give every man, every woman, every child the help that they need to live. And yet still not even experience a dent in their wealth. What does that say? It says, I think, we have a rather lopsided economy, a lopsided society. But the question I'm asking you is this fixable? Or have we gone way past that point? Can any country have such a stark, entrenched inequality as an organic part of itself and still call itself democratic? How would you describe such a society in which it only will take 10 people, by the way, they're all men, it would only take 10 men, according to this study in The Guardian, who would be generous enough to cough up whatever is needed to help the millions of people afflicted at this time in our consciousness. At this time, people are afflicted with poverty. It only takes 10 such people to commit to giving every man, woman, and child what they need to get back to the safety zone. And yet they wouldn't suffer any losses, really. They made so much money in the past few months of this pandemic that even if they were to part ways with a little bit of it, giving it to people who really desperately need it, they still wouldn't lose a thing. So what do you say about a society like this, where you have such an obscene contrast in terms of how people are living, the kinds of access they have to wealth and money, and just to get the things that they need done? What comes to your mind about such a society? 888-874-4888. I want some really analytical pieces coming from you today. I'm not saying that, we have it out for the rich people because, well, they're rich and we're not. That's a simplistic way to operate. Let's take it up a couple of notches and see what we will see if we stop a little bit and think about it. Duke from Jersey City, you're on the air.
Hello, Utrice.
Hello.
I'm glad to hear you're feeling better. I didn't know you were under the weather.
Yeah, I was. But I'm too evil to keep
yourself
down. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I haven't called in a while. I've kind of been banished from the community, I feel. The last time we spoke, it didn't go so well. But I want to stay on topic. And I don't want you to think for one moment that I don't even want to raise my voice because I don't want you to think that I'm coming at you in any kind of way. I'm not. But if you go back a few months ago, I think it was around the summertime, when Bernie Sanders suggested that we put a tax on just the money that these 10 people that you're talking about in The Guardian, if we put a tax just on the money that they made since March, not their personal wealth, not their company's income or profits, if we had put a tax just on the profit that these people, just these 10 people had made since March of this year, we could have taken care of all the financial aspects of this pandemic.
So is that
you
what
didn't
you're
agree with
advocating? To tax this level of wealth should be more heavily taxed? What are you suggesting?
What I'm suggesting is, number one, what you're reading in The Guardian is not an American phenomenon. Mm-hmm. It's a planetary issue. If we go to Africa, to the Congo, and we look at our poor brothers who are digging in the ground, getting these minerals, there are some people in the Congo who are so wealthy beyond anything that we can imagine. So this is not an American issue. We as human beings should not allow a select number of people to have access to this kind of ridiculous amount of wealth. It's not an issue of taxes. It goes deeper than that. It's something deeper where we all need to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, is this the world that we want to accept?
Yes, but here's the thing.
This is the same thing that I said to you before, you, Treese, and you
did.
You were willing to take the other side of the argument.
No, I was asking a question. I'm asking the question. What is fair? What does the word fair mean? Somebody is saying that. Wait a minute. You're saying people who are making a lot of money, ridiculous amounts of money. How does the government control that? If the same government says, this is what democracy means. You can make as much money as you want.
Yes,
and you can do with it what you want. You should be able to make as much money as you want. I totally agree with that. We should be free as human beings to do and create and generate whatever we choose. I don't have a problem with that. What I am saying is that there comes a point, and I don't know what the point is. I don't know what the dollar figure is. But there comes a point where it's so clearly absurd. No matter how much money you took from these 10 people listed in The Guardian, they would still be the wealthiest 10 people on the planet Earth. Yes,
and
but
that's
you're
only
bringing us
10
back
people.
To the same starting point. I'm asking you, get us out of the conundrum. Please get us out of the conundrum by telling us what is a solution.
I think the solution is, there's a certain level to which individuals should not be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Hoard wealth. I guess that's the best way I can put it. There should be a certain level determined, and it could be different in every region of the world. Every government could have their own number. I don't know what the number would be. But there should be a certain level beyond which, if you generated wealth beyond that number, a certain portion of that wealth goes back into a fund for the planet. Now, I don't know how specific. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a politician. I'm just a person who uses common sense. Okay? And I know when Bernie Sanders, and I'm not a Bernie Sanders fan, I'm just using that as an example. When Bernie Sanders suggested that we tax the profits that these people made since March, you were against it.
No.
Wait, let me finish, Treese. Let me finish.
But
and
you're
that
wrong.
Is the fundamental problem. It's that even
wrong.
people who are progressive thinking people do not want to accept the ideal of someone else telling them how to use their money. Money that they think is theirs.
Wait a minute.
And that's the fundamental problem.
Okay. See, this is probably
and until we get over that hurdle,
the first time. Look, there is implied in the question. It's very clear. When we call ourselves a capitalist society, these are all the attributes that go along with capitalism. They're not doing anything wrong. They're not committing crimes. They are operating fully and openly under the umbrella of capitalism. They make as much money as you want, and you keep as much money as you make. That's
where the system is flawed. You make as much as you want, and you keep as much as you make.
I'm asking you, can you somehow navigate this vast sea in which there are no absolute rules? You want to now introduce absolute rules. There have never been absolute rules when it comes to capitalism. People do whatever the heck they want to do, cause all kinds of damage that they want to cause, as long as they come away with their money. And nobody's supposed to interfere with that. Let me speak for a minute.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That is a problem. And it is not just saying, well, we will correct this part of the problem. The problem you have, as you've delineated, the problem is capitalism, gone mad, as the mighty Sparrow said. Capitalism has gone mad. Now, what do? After you've told people, this is the very height of self-sufficiency and competition and this and that and the next, you go out there and you push the barrier as far as you can for yourself. And they do. And this is the result. Now, what do? Are you prepared? Is the country prepared to reel back in its own definition of what American capitalism is all about?
Okay, can I speak?
Sure.
You Trees, on this very network, PRN, we have people like Professor Richard Wolff, Professor Jack Rasmus, who have been telling us, who have been critiquing the capitalist system from day one.
Yes, but you're not answering
we know
questions.
that the system is not perfect. Everyone knows it.
Right. I'm asking you what, in your view, not Jack Rasmus's view or Professor Wolff's view, in your view, what is a workable solution?
Okay. My personal view is too extreme, so I'm not going to put out my personal view. But I think the workable solution would be, let's take these 10 people that you're talking about in The Guardian, okay? Now, we can extend that number 10 to, I think it's about 600-something billionaires in the United States. I don't know if I have that number correct. Something like that. Now, once you reach a point, you Trees, where you are generating wealth from nothing but digits in a computer, meaning you're not making wealth from a product that you made or a thought that you had or something that you're selling. When you reach a point where you're just making money off of money, governments should take a certain amount of that money.
Okay. Well, then you said
right off the top as a tax.
All right. I want to move on because what you've just said is exactly the problem. There has to be a redefinition of capitalism. Nobody.
It's called a wealth tax, you Trees, and it's being proposed all over the planet.
They've had that already, wealth taxes, and all these taxes that you're talking about, the wealth tax. You know who pays the most wealth tax? The poor.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Okay. And that's you misunderstanding the whole purpose of it.
And there is other people speaking. I have to have other people speaking. This is the question. Is this country dedicated to and founded upon capitalism as a not only a workable concept, but a necessary part of progress in this country? Are we willing to take it apart and put something else in? Thank you. Ed from Jamaica, you're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon, you Trees. How you doing?
Okay, Ed. How's by you?
You know, me and my sons, we're here.
You and your sons.
As usual.
By your sons.
Yeah, we're here. First of all, I got to disagree with your first caller. This is specifically an American problem. 8 out of the 10 billionaires that you're speaking about are American. Top of the pile, Jeff Bezos. We have been sold the myth of capitalism. We have been sold the myth of universal, ever-expanding growth. And that's not the way a society can run. You can look in history, look at Egypt, you can look at the Roman Empire, you can even look at the Moais in the South Pacific. When they exhausted their resources for profit and greed, a small segment of the population became isolated and the civilization died. Now, as far as America is concerned, you're trying to break the great American myth. It's like the great American myth about guns. It's like the great American myth about pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. No billionaire in this country, there's only 2 ways you make money in this country. You inherit it or you steal it. There hasn't been any real innovations or grassroots growth in this country, in my estimation, of the past 50 to 100 years. You either inherit it or you steal it. And the only way we can control that is through government. We can have what I would like to call a speculation tax, which prevents people from making money off a disaster. We can have wealth taxes. We can have proper estate taxes. We can tax the individuals that are profiting from the facilities of government. Nobody made the railroads, DuPont, Shell. They didn't make their money from their own initiatives. A lot of them profited off of government investments, the pharmaceutical industry, the computer industry. The pharmaceutical industry profits off of inventions and initiatives by the government. The computer industry profited off of the space initiative. You don't pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. No man is an island, and we've got to accept that. We've got to drop the American myth of that I can get mine and screw you. We've got to drop that myth and realize that we're a society, and in a society, it is a communitive effort to promote it. And that's why we're at where we're at now.
Okay, so now answer the questions straight ahead. You've given us an idea of, the things that should be considered that produced the situation that we're in. How do we get out?
Well, it's a process. Like I say with everything, nothing happens in a vacuum. It takes education, and it takes time, and it takes agitation. First, you've got to relieve the people of the myth that one man is an island. None of these millionaires, none of these people made money exclusively on their own. They didn't profit exclusively on their own. They took advantage of situations that gave them an opportunity and a window at a set time in life. Jeff Bezos profited on the burgeoning internet market and borrowed money from his wealthy family. His father was a doctor. His mother was a psychiatrist. He borrowed money. He had an idea, and he was allowed to facilitate that idea. Other people have had ideas, but they didn't have the opportunity that wealth provides. We live in a society where now wealth is fostering wealth, and there's a calcification of wealth at the top. We've got to break it up. Call it socialism, whatever you want. Call it radicalism, whatever you want to call it. We got to break it up because there is a finite amount of resources in this world, and if we're going to live in it fairly, we got to break it up. We can't allow 1 or 2 or 10 or 15 people to control the mass means of production. And a lot of people don't like when I say this. Oh, that's communist. That's socialist. There's nothing wrong with that concept. This government is socialist. The fire department, that's a socialist concept. Was your house caught on fire? Did you put it out? Police department, that's socialist. All of these ideas are society working together to establish mechanisms to maintain a balance. And wealth is the key of all of it. If we can maintain a balance and an equal share of wealth among each other, a rising tide lifts all boats. I don't care what nobody says.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your opinion and your contribution today. David from Westchester, what should our attitude be about this distortion, severe distortion in wealth?
Yes. Good afternoon. Peace to the world. I teach middle school science in New York City, and the way I look at this is we have to reset our view of humanity. And what I mean by that is, particularly in the United States, there is no collective in our society. We are inherently individualistic. And this whole idea about manifest destiny and these other things that we've been sold over the years, they were all set up as archetypes for the masses to have this so-called American dream. But from my experience, that term, the American dream, was coined during the Great Depression to give us some vision to live into. But right now, I look at my students and I see a wasteland. I don't see them really engaging in their own lives. And right now, the way I see things, it's almost like the way things were before the French Revolution, because we really did not have a revolution in the United States of America. That was not a real revolution. The French Revolution was a real revolution. I'm not saying we should go with pitchforks and go after these people, all right? But what I am saying is the masses of people, we need to start real political change. The Democrats and Republicans are two arms of the same body, and they are not benefiting the masses of people. Public education is destroying the critical thinking of our children, and that's exactly by design. So until we can
I want you to come a little closer to home. I want you to come a little closer to home.
Say it again?
You have the fact that should have shaken you by now. Just 10%.
Oh, it's just I don't even know what to say anymore. I mean, I don't even know what to say with these numbers.
But
I mean,
how
I
do
can remember.
we dismantle that? How do we do it? How do we dismantle this total imbalance?
Well, we have to get, as citizens of the United States, we need to get control of our money. We do the money, the monetary system is what has caused this, and now that we're going toward a society that's really going to be cashless, it's really, really getting dangerous and scary. And I think the masses of people, we're going to need to have at the grassroots new political systems to start to govern ourselves. And, because they the freedom. I don't know who said this, but it's a term I just love it. Freedom's not come from the right to vote. Freedom comes from how little you have to vote on. And so we have the right to vote, but look at what we really have. Do we really have any choice? Are the policies that are being put in place really helping? I mean, I was just listening to Gary Knowles' show, and this woman who was talking about the poverty in the United States. I mean, how much do the people who are so-called our leaders think we can actually take at this point? And so we need new political systems that are real.
All right, you've given us a general overview. You've given us a general overview. I have no problem with you there. I'm trying to get from you one specific plan of action.
Okay, I can give you one.
Okay.
One specific plan of action is to cap the amount of money that can be made in the financial system through the stock markets, because the stock markets have lost all sense of reality. And that really, if you go back to before the dot-com crash, stocks had already lost the intrinsic value, the real value below the stocks. They've been disconnected for now it's 30 years. So I think capping the amount of money that can be made in the stock market, I think doing things that could promote small businesses. Like, for example, I tell my students, don't be an employer, don't be an employee, be an employer. Getting people to become entrepreneurial and starting to shift the ability for wealth that is being created the way it's being created now to continue to be pushed forward into the future. I think there should be some sort of way to capture this wealth so they can actually benefit the common good. We don't have infrastructure.
Do we have
very
that
poor
much
schools.
time? Do we have that much time to wait? We just have the statistic. This should, shake us all up. 10 people.
It's unbelievable what's happened.
The wealth.
It's unbelievable.
What do we do?
Well, I think we need to put caps on the ability to make money off of, as we're saying, off of making money, and we need to let the United States government be involved in actually minting money and get the international get rid of the Federal Reserve and take back control of our money.
All right.
And don't and have public banking, like places like, for example, the Dakotas. One of the Dakotas, they have their own banking system that actually works very well for the people. And have a complete moratorium on any type of foreclosures. Sorry?
I wanted this particular question answered. There's no question that we are living in a lopsided, an economically lopsided society. And the people who are wealthy are ridiculously wealthy. Those who are poor are ridiculously poor. How do we make things better, equalize if you want, but to certainly bring the poor out of poverty? But you've been a great contributor today, and I want to thank you so much for contributing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Marcus, Wisconsin, you're on the air. How do you fix it?
Thank you, Ms. Leid. Excellent discussion. You've really hit upon the true point, the thing we should be dealing with. Let me start with the basic...
when you say let me start, it means that you're taking 25 minutes. We don't have
no,
today.
Not at all.
Okay, all right. I trust you.
No. Let me start. The one economic fact that working people have to know, and it's the only one they need to know. The only creator of wealth is labor. Every major economist in the last 350 years has said this. The only thing that creates wealth is labor. A diamond in the ground is worth nothing. It only takes on value when you dig it up. Otherwise, it's just speculation. It's imaginary. So whenever you hear somebody talking about wealthy people being wealth creators, throttle them on the spot because they're lying. Number two, capping wealth is obviously the thing to do. I would refer you to the testimony of the Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis. He gave there's a university named after him. He wrote a little book once called Other People's Money and How the Bankers Use It back in the 1920s. It's a slim little volume. Read it. He gave a speech to the United States Commission on Industrial Relations in 1915. It's known today. Find it. It's a little essay called The Curse of Bigness. And he said that there's a point at which wealth is accumulated in one hand is no longer in the public interest. He said, for instance, we have a road system. Now, you could probably build a truck that would carry 100 times what a normal truck would, but it would destroy the roads for everybody. And he said that's how great wealth works. When it's accumulated in one hand or a very narrow set of hands, it destroys conditions for everybody else. Now, that's all the economy you have to understand.
I don't want you to get too far into the polemic of wealth and poverty. I want you to address what do you say about this inequity, and how do we even attempt to pardon the pun, flatten the curve here?
Exactly. This was just the setup for the way out. A week ago Thursday in India, one of the most significant events in human history took place. The largest general strike in world history. 250 million workers and farmers shut the country down. It was virtually unreportable in the United States. Pandemic or no, they turned out, and they did it because of exactly the conditions you are describing. Now, I have been following this for a long time, and if you talk to these people involved with this, they don't say, what can we do, like we do. They tell you what they're doing. That's the difference between them and us. We stand around with all our advantages. We're still the richest people in the world. And we scratch our heads and say, what should we do? The answer is pick a direction and go. Get busy on it. Organize with your neighbors on whatever it is. There's a million ways to do this. Look at the model that they're using. That's all you have to do. The script is well known for doing it. This is not complex. The problem is one of courage and stop being inert. That's our problem. We are inert. We think nothing is possible unless somebody does it for us. We have adopted this idea that we're perpetual children. We're not.
All right. Amen.
That's the answer. You start there. All you have to do is look around in your own neighborhood. There's a million things that have to be done. Figure out, well, how can I do this? How can I contribute toward some kind of direction towards solving this problem? Devote an hour a day to it. All right? Instead of staring at the TV. Everybody wastes at least an hour a day. Devote it to something. That's all it is. It's really not more complicated than that. Let's grow up and stop asking ourselves, what should we do like we're 6 years old, and start reporting to each other what we are doing like the rest of the world does. There are 50 last year.
Thank you very much for contributing. That was a powerful analysis there. E from Edgewater, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, Utrice.
Good afternoon, E. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Sorry to hear you had this problem for a few days at the hospital, and it was terrible. We all missed you terribly, and we were really concerned about you.
Yeah,
glad
they
to
couldn't
hear
wait to
you're
get
making
rid
a
of me.
recovery.
I had to leave. But let's get to the question today. You heard me introduce this idea, this subject, in terms of the enormous inequities between those who have wealth and those who don't. How is this to be reckoned with?
Yeah, I think we waited way too long, and we bought into the system of capitalism, which is nothing more than a Ponzi scheme, which only benefits the people that get in on the bottom ground, and then, the top of the pyramid is benefiting while everybody else loses. So, exactly what you're saying shows 10 people could solve the problem. Why should it have ever gotten to that point? And now we want to do something about it. We bought into all the stuff they made for us, and we thought it was great, but it was all bad for us. Now the planet's suffering, and, you could solve the people's problem by giving them $3,000 each. That might solve the problem for a little while, but what about the planet? The planet cannot sustain 7 billion people, which is moving towards 11 billion in another 5 years. They made all this money now, and now they feel like, well, we needed all these people, and now we don't need them anymore. So is it a kinder, gentler way to control a population with viruses, with biological warfare, or by declaring war on countries and bombing them and killing them with guns and all kinds of different bombs that we created with all this wealth? That's what you have to ask yourself at this point. Here we are in history. They're now.
Let's get more directly connected here with the subject. That is, you do have these enormous gaps between rich and poor. Is there a way to attenuate the problem, to kind of fix the problem, even if it's not fixing the whole problem, but fixing some part of the problem, that we do not have these enormous gaps in wealth?
Yes, I think the plan Andrew Yang said there should be universal income, $1,000 to every man, woman, and child every month. You get $1,000. That would help people pay their bills and pay for their rent, and they'd be able to live and survive at least. That's a good idea. I think it could have been done. But I don't think the powers that be want it to be that simple. They don't want to part with that money. You know how people get when they're rich and rich. They just want to get richer and richer. They don't want to part with it and help everybody else. Sometimes they give to charities that they believe in, and it's all tax write-off stuff. We got ourselves into this predicament by buying into it instead of saying, no, we don't want an automobile that's going to destroy our planet. We don't want it. We should have came out then and said, no. How can we allow a group of people to destroy our planet just so they could get rich? How could we allow it? And now we're going to do something about it now? After 100 years and all this pollution that they've been putting into the air and destroying our planet? I don't understand how it could be done.
Would you have the same feelings if that rich person was you?
Yeah, I'd have the same feeling. But I can't really answer. I shouldn't have answered it so quick. How would I know that? How could I know that? I mean, I'm going by the way I am now because I'm not a capitalist person, you know. I'm a happy person just having enough. And if everybody was happy like that, we'd be fine. But unfortunately, there's people on this planet that need to have lots and lots and lots. And I don't understand why. And it's always been a conundrum to me. But this is why we have such a problem.
Thank you, E, for contributing today and making me laugh a little bit. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. David from Brooklyn, you're on the air.
Yes, I've been listening to everyone talk, and I'm thinking about the short answer to your question. And to me, the short answer is simple. The short answer is the only way this system is going to change is rebellion. And I say that because all those ideas that people have they've talked about it in the last few minutes or so depend on a system controlled by those people like those 10 billionaires at the top, and the systems of politics and economics and all the levers of the society controlled by them. And they are not going to give up voluntarily any of the things that they have now. Occasionally they throw some bones out to people to quiet them down, but the answer to your question is simple. Only thing that's going to work is rebellion. You can't go and appeal to your congressman or your senator or your state representative or something. All of those people in the pockets are the people that control this society. So if you want to turn this around, people have to get to the point of rebellion. So that is a short answer to your question.
All right, thank you for giving me the short answer. But here's a question now. How do you raise this inequity constantly enough so that people understand the damage that has been done and the society it has produced, a lopsided society in which there are people with way too much and then there are people with nothing at all?
Well, let's look at it this way. The people that control this society, those people like the 10 that were mentioned, they really do not care about the masses of people who live in this society. This system of capitalism that we have here in this country, they are not under any restraints to go to the fullest extent as possible. So it's quite all right for them to have the masses of people suffering while they get more and more wealthy. So we're not talking about Scandinavian capitalism. We're talking about American capitalism and imperialism. So what I'm saying when I gave the short answer is the way I see it. You can talk about all these, schemes to, kind of pacify or modify this system a little. But the point is that they're not going to willingly, in any way willingly, people have, for example, no political party that's viable. We have none. Democrat and Republican, that has nothing to do with the masses. So the only thing, as I say again, is there's rebellion. And that's the only way things will change in the society that we have going now.
Well, I think you've said quite a mouthful today. That was very instructive. And I thank you, as always, for bringing some light to the darkness that we face all the time. Thank you so much for calling in today and contributing. And that brings us to the end of our program today. We have to start thinking about these questions and putting them out there in public. Because believe it or not, there are so many people of like mind. But it takes a little needle, a little, poke for them to say, come to think of it, this is a very important thing. I should be thinking about this. And that's what your contributions do. They give a panorama of the issue, and people are free to say, well, I liked what he said here, but I didn't like what she said there. So this is what we have to do. We have to continue exchanging views. And by the way, I'm very, very proud of the level of contribution. This is great because we're teaching each other. And that was my dream a long time ago. People should be able to teach each other and cause each other to think some more and redefine for themselves how they see the world. Thanks again for listening in today and contributing. And let's meet again tomorrow. Talk some more. Bye-bye.